Why is it important to do this final scope review as soon as you get there? Because for me personally, it builds trust with the homeowner that the information from the estimate or the estimator and any change orders or anything that's happened in the meantime is gotten relayed to the team, and the homeowner now feels confident in your ability to execute the plan. Welcome back to the Elite Business Advice podcast. My name is Chris Moore, the founder of Elite Business Advisors, your host here of the EBA podcast. So this week and next week, we're going to be talking about Job Start SOPs and Job Closeout SOPs. I love the conversation around SOPs, and as I started to write this outline, I had it put together all in one episode. And then I realized that honestly, there was so much to talk about in each one to do this right, that it was probably better to separate it in two separate episodes. So today, we're going to be diving a little deeper on the Job Start SOP, and next week, we're going to be covering the Closeout process SOP that you should have in place for your business. If you struggle with getting projects up and going, you aren't alone, okay? Many painting contractors have a hard time having a documented process to follow because they don't have the documented process. And then on the other side of that, they struggle with the accountability for the execution of the said SOPs and how do we enforce them to our team, okay? And so if you're listening to this and you're thinking through like, okay, the goal of this is really just for projects to kick off smoothly. But if I'm being honest, I see the hidden costs associated with not having this consistency in place, the standards that come with it, and kind of the bigger picture behind it, right? A lot of people think a Job Start SOP is really designed to make sure that things, go smoothly, or that we have the lawn sign in the yard. And while that's part of it, there's a much bigger, consequence or benefit of having this in place or not having this in place, depending on which side of the coin you fall on there. So, like I said, today I want to share what a Job Start SOP should look like, kind of a sample one, the things that it impacts in your business positively and negatively, and also who's accountable for all aspects of its execution. So, I hope it helps. Thanks for plugging in. This is the Elite Business Advice podcast. All right, so let's talk about the Job Start SOP. I like a good logical flow to things in life. And so as much as I really wanted to talk about the Job Close SOP, which is where the idea came for this episode initially, I realized that there was, again, so much that needed covered here in the Start SOP as well. And I couldn't put the ending before the beginning, and so again, I just had to let this thing logically flow out. You're lucky I didn't make this into a 4-part series. So, just 2 weeks today, start next week, close, and we'll send this one home. So, let's just start out with kind of what a Job Start SOP looks like. And I'm going to kind of go through some details here of each of these kind of points in this SOP. I'll do a quick recap after I go through it, and then I'll talk a little bit more about the benefits and some of the standards and expectations you should have in place for your team and for your clients. So, number one, okay, Job Start Kickoff SOP is the leader gets to the job 20 to 30 minutes before any of the painters do. Okay, this would also apply if you have subcontractors. Whoever is leading this project gets there 20 to 30 minutes before any of the production team shows up. All right. The reason why I just use the term leader there is because this can vary, whether it's, you as the owner, whether it's the project manager showing up to kick off this project, or whether the crew leader is, at a good enough skill set to be able to start their own projects. All right. So I'm just going to say whoever it is, the leader of that project gets there 20 to 30 minutes before any of the painters do. All right. In my opinion, if you have a crew lead that you are kind of training to be able to kick off these projects, you or your project manager and them show up 20 to 30 minutes before any of the painters do. Okay. So again, a lot of like who is showing up and who's kicking this off. I get that asked a lot, like who should be kicking off the projects? I'm like, honestly, it depends on the skill set of the crew leader, right? If you utilize subcontractors, I'm going to say more times than not, this should be, you as the owner or the project manager should always be the one showing up early. I don't really advise letting sub crews kick off their own projects unless there's somebody that's been with you for a long time, is able to follow the SOP, and is doing things, well and the way that they should be here. Okay. So really who shows up depends on, where that crew leader is in the skill set. Can they kick off their own projects if they have everything or not? Okay. So either way, leader of the project shows up 20 to 30 minutes before any of the painters do. All right. Second step, they put a lawn sign in the yard. The question I get asked a lot here is, do you ask for, permission or forgiveness, right? Do you ask the customer, can we do this? Typically for me, how I like to handle that, again, I like to kind of keep control over the situation. And so I would say, and there's kind of two schools of thoughts here, I would just do it. And then when we get to step 3 here in a second, where you interact with the homeowner, I would just say, hey, we put a lawn sign out in the front yard. Let me know if there's any issues with that with your HOA or, anything else. And I would just, we did this, but let me know if there's a problem. Okay. Because if you just kind of lead it, this is normal, this is what we do, unless there is a problem. Like I know in our neighborhood, I found out the hard way that we can't have lawn signs up in our yard unless it's, for like for sale, like real estate signs, which I don't understand, whatever. I guess I understand that. So, we had a fence put in when we first moved in. And of course, the HOA was nice about it. They're like, hey, just so you know, we know you just moved in, can't have signs in your yard. All right, cool. Good to know now. So that being said, like I know there's some HOAs that are like that. I know some homeowners may be really picky and anal and they don't want your lawn sign in the yard. So just, hey, we did this. Let me know if there's a problem. Totally understand, right? But this is just kind of normal. I'm leading this process, right? Whereas if you ask, they may say no. But if you do it, you kind of say, hey, let me know if there's problems, they may be okay with it. So again, we don't want to start friction right away. Just do it. Don't make it weird. Don't make a thing that's not a thing. Great English there. All right. So you get there 20, 30 minutes before, lawn signs in the yard. Step 3 is we're going to kind of do a quick walkthrough, scope review with the homeowner. We want to make sure nothing's changed. We're all on the right expectation. We're all on the same page. This color, this is what we have down. We're going to go through the work order. Okay. So again, hey, good morning. Great to see you. Just so you know, we put a lawn sign in the front yard. Let me know if there's any issues with your HOA or any issues with that. Just want to do kind of a quick walkthrough, make sure we're all on the same page before the rest of the team shows up and we get going here on the project. Okay. Why is it important to do this final scope review as soon as you get there? Because for me personally, it builds trust with the homeowner that the information from the estimate or the estimator and any change orders or anything that's happened in the meantime has gotten relayed to the team, and the homeowner now feels confident in your ability to execute the plan, right? Again, most people think like, oh yeah, it's just a good idea, make sure we're on the same page. Yes, you're right. But I want the homeowner to have trust in us that we're going to show up and we're going to execute. Because here's what happens, right? Let me just ask this in a question form. Have you ever had a homeowner hover over your shoulder, okay, or your crew's shoulder, or they're looking at everything, they're checking every 20 minutes on just whatever? We know those helicopter homeowners that hover around. It's because they have a lack of trust. Okay. Now, I will admit that maybe they have a lack of trust because of previous situations with other contractors or other painters before. So maybe it's not because you've done something. But more times than not, there are things that we could do to make sure we've got this confidence and trust from them. Or again, try to go over the top to prevent. There's the 1% that are always going to be the 1% that we can't fix. But typically, if they're constantly checking in and hovering around, it's because there's a lack of trust there from some degree. Okay. And so we want to show up, especially if you have an estimator or if you as the owner did the estimate and now you've got your production manager, and crews showing up. I want that homeowner to, one, have the same feeling they had when you sold them or the estimator sold them, and two, have the level of confidence that all the information got relayed and everybody's on the same page about what's being done. Okay. So yes, it's going to keep things from maybe getting messed up, but really it's going to kind of build some confidence and trust, which ties back into the customer experience we talk a lot about here on this show. All right. Doing this walkthrough also prevents maybe some further delays in the project. Okay. If there's something that is, we're not on the same page with, something gets miscommunicated, or, we're walking through, hey, we got this color in this bedroom, this color here, this color for the siding, this color for the trim, and there's question. We kind of get that out of the way now and start problem solving it. Make sure that we're, on the same page, rather than we put the wrong color in the room and now we got to stop and we got to fix things and we got to do all this. Okay. So just show up. Hey, I just want to do a quick walkthrough, make sure, everybody's on the same page. This is all the information we have. Make sure, nothing's changed. We don't like surprises any more than you do, as the owner of the house. So, all right. And then step 4 is we want to create a kind of project plan of attack for the project. And usually at this point, the team is there. They're unloading materials, unloading supplies, getting the vehicles unloaded, grabbing ladders, any of that fun stuff. And so, again, the leader, whoever that's going to be, owner, project manager, crew lead, whoever, we need to have a project plan in place, right? If this is a 5-day long project, what's our game plan? What are we doing each day? Where do we need to be at the end of today to be on track, on budget, right? So again, maybe the crew lead can do this. If nothing else, it needs to be the project manager or the owner creating this alongside the crew lead, laying it out. Okay, Monday we're doing, the living room, the kitchen, the dining room. Tuesday we're doing these 3 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. Wednesday we're doing upstairs hallway, stairwell, foyer. Like, we're just laying out the game plan. All right, we're planning out, again, if it's a 2 or 3 week project, it's going to take a little bit longer, but we're planning out, okay, where do we need to be at the end of week 1, to set us up for success, to wrap up here in weeks 2 and 3, where do we need to be at each day? You should always at least have a project plan for the next 5 days, okay, with a checkpoint at the end of week 1 to make sure that that's putting us on track for where we need to be, okay? Again, those of you guys that are using production rate estimating, you have the hours you estimated for each of the tasks. You can kind of realistically create this plan based on that. All right. So here's one thing I want to cover. All right. Accountability and checking in on these things. All right. If you have a crew leader doing this kickoff SOP, all right, part of the project manager's check-ins on the projects is ensuring that they followed the START SOP. Right? Is there a lawn sign in the yard? Did they do a scope check with the homeowner? What's the project plan look like? All right. If you have a project manager doing these starts, and again, maybe even training the crew leader to hand this off to them, right, until they build them up enough, I would encourage you as the owner to do some spot checks to ensure the PM is following through on these same things. Okay. And again, I say spot checks because I know realistically that if you have a project manager and they're running 4 to 5 jobs at a time, like, it's probably not realistic for you to get to every single one. But we need to do some spot checks to make sure this is happening, right? And so kind of the bottom line, the golden rule, the framework, whatever you want to call it here, is that accountability is always one level above who's supposed to be executing said SOP, right? So if we're expecting the crew lead to execute the START SOP or the Close SOP we'll talk about next week, it's up to the project manager to check in. If the project manager is executing the SOP, it's up to the owner to check in, right? Accountability is key. We can have SOPs, we can have all this stuff. We can put it in the prettiest folder in the world. We can have it organized in the coolest, most easily accessible digital way possible. But if we're not holding people accountable and we're not using it, there was no point in ever creating it. Okay. So that's another question I get a lot. Where do these live? Physical, digital? There's so many different ways. It depends on your tech stack. It depends on what you're doing. Some people have kind of the SOPs in with the work orders as a template. Some people have them live in a Google Drive folder. If you're using Busy and you have documents as part of that, then you can have them live there. Whatever it is, it just needs to be easily accessible to your crews. If your crews love digital things, I like digital because it's always accessible and have one single source of truth wherever they're going to get their work order or clocking in. Sometimes, again, maybe it's no more than 2 places that this lives. Wherever they're already going and using is where these things should live at. Okay. So this needs to be something that we expect our team to execute every single time, right? As we talk about sales process and having a sales process that we execute the same way every single time, right? We get there, we show up, we do a walkthrough, we get our numbers, we present the estimate, we follow up 3 to 7 days later. Like, that is a process that we follow 95 to 98% of the time. Okay, it's because there's always going to be the little variations. We have to pivot on the fly. Service business, we deal with people. Same thing with our SOPs. 95 to 98% of the time. Show up 20, 30 minutes early. Put a lawn sign in the yard. Say hi to the customer. Hey, we put a lawn sign. Let me know if there's any issues. I want to go through, just do a quick scope check, make sure we're on the same page about everything that's being done. I'm going to put a project plan together. I'll communicate that to you here by lunchtime, or as soon as I have it done. This just gets followed every single time. You show up, you do the SOP. You show up, you do the SOP. Okay. And I'm saying that almost, I feel like I'm being insulting, but I'm saying that because I see people who have these things who it just doesn't get executed every time. It's like 50% of the time, right? And some of that is maybe on the crew lead or the project manager. But I'm honestly going to say that 100% of the time it's on you as the owner for not holding them accountable, for not making this the standard and the expectation, for not leading them in a direction that they know that this is what we do every single job, right? And so I'm just giving you a little hard truth. All right. I'm trying to say it with kindness. But I care about you too much to not mention that a lot of times it's probably our own fault for not reinforcing these things, right? For not having a plan in place to hold them accountable, to check in on it, to do the things we need to do. Okay. And if not those, if you as the owner are the one that are doing these kickoffs, great. This is a great time to go through and make sure that we've got this documented, that we create the verbiage, that we do the things we need to do, because then it makes it really easy to hand off when that time comes, right? Michael Cheney, owner of No Drip Painting out in Columbus, Ohio, great friend of mine. Michael was in supporting us here at our retreat a few weeks ago. And I've just loved the way that she's attacked her business the last couple of years, in the sense that, like, she puts herself in a seat. She builds out all the systems, the documents, the SOPs, the processes, the expectations, like the structure. And then she hires somebody to train it to them, to hand it off to them, to then go jump into the next seat in the company that she needs to work on, right? I watched her do that with with production and operations and building an operations manager last year, 2025. This year she's been doing that in the sales role as kind of the sales manager, sales director, sales coach, whatever you want to call it, right? I know where she's heading next. Like, it's been really cool to watch the way that she's done this. And so even if you're listening to this and you got 1 crew or 2 crews, 3 to 6 painters, whatever, you create this in the seat that you own right now to be able to hand this off. All right. I want to hit on, as we wrap up here, a couple standards and expectations that kind of non-negotiables that I think you should kind of embody. And this felt like a great episode to insert these on. And then I want to leave you with kind of what this impacts. So number 1, standards, expectations. We had a policy that we needed colors 2 weeks before projects were scheduled to start. Okay. We said 2 weeks because then we would kind of give them some grace. If we were at the finish line and they needed a couple of days, it's not going to hurt us, right? 10 days is fine. Even 7 days is still okay. But we just had the expectation, hey, 2 weeks before we need colors. So when we're a month out, we're having that scheduling check-in, phone call, text, email, we're already starting to talk about colors, right? Again, part of an SOP. 4 weeks before, starting to bring up colors. 2 weeks before we need the colors, we set the expectation. That gives them time. And again, we set that expectation at the estimates, and and when they sign the contract with us. So, and I'm saying that because I've recently seen way too many situations where painting contractors have issues with colors not being ready and production getting delayed, or showing up and putting the paint on and the homeowner didn't like it. I understand that's kind of out of your control sometimes, That's why I recommend doing samples, have them doing samples, get a designer involved. There's so many ways to do this. Again, it's never going to be perfect, but I just feel like I've seen a lot of situations recently, heard conversations, heard stories where people are, kind of getting their schedule bogged down here in the busy season where things should just be executing because, waiting on colors from homeowner or something, right? If somebody's really struggling with it, great. Hey, no problem. Like, I'm not going to force you to have a color. I'm just going to bump you back on our schedule. It's okay. Like, it's fine with us. If you're the one with the deadline, okay, we need to make this happen. And I would tell them that ahead of time, right? At that 4-week check-in before the project. Hey, listen, we need colors 2 weeks ahead of time. Not trying to rush you. If you guys got a lot going on, you're going on vacation, we're happy to we can bump things back in our schedule. We've got other projects we should be able to move up. So I'm not trying to rush you guys, but, just want you to know we need them 2 weeks ahead of time. So that's how you can have a standard and expectation, but also have some customer service behind it. Work order should be ready 1 week before the project's scheduled to start. So whoever's in charge of getting that work order put together, project coordinator, project manager, owner, whatever that is. However, we're translating our estimates into our work orders to make sure there's details. Should also include products, colors, sheens for each part of the scope, and then additional equipment needed that they may not have with them every day, right? Like, we didn't always carry pivot tools and 24-foot ladders. If we're doing exteriors, we'd always have them, but so for that one project that we had the tricky 4-year stairwell that we maybe needed the pivot tool and the 24-foot ladder, that was just part of our work orders ahead of time, and that came from the notes that I took doing the estimate. Other standard expectation, order materials 3 to 5 days ahead of time. That you should never be in a spot where all of a sudden you go to order paint and the store is out of paint and we got to scramble the morning of the project or the day before the project to get materials, right? We should be ordering at least 3 days ahead of time. That gives you a few days to problem solve if there is, an issue with product, sheen, something out of stock. We had 9 Sherwin-Williams stores within 20 minutes of us, so we always, could figure something out if that was the issue that our main store we wanted to order it at didn't have any. So, and take them up on delivery. If you have a shop, you have an office, something, take them up on delivery. So, here's the few things it impacts. I want to hit on this as we wrap up. Number one, this impacts the marketing side of your business because the lawn sign, the visibility. If we're not doing it, we're not following the SOP, you're hurting yourself for leads. This also, I think, impacts the professional experience they have when referrals and other things. So that's a whole nother kind of arm off the marketing piece, but really talking about the lawn sign and the visibility of your team and the whatnot. 2, it impacts the customer experience they have, which, as I mentioned, referrals, it ties back to, but it impacts the experience. They picked you because of your professionalism, probably. Right? They picked you because they liked you or your estimator at the estimate. Don't, this might be the first time I've ever said this word on this podcast or this line, but don't sell a golden wrapped piece of crap. Okay. We might just get some t-shirts made and I might just own this, but, so I was thinking about this, like, don't sell something that looks amazing to then just have the execution and the production side of it go to crap, literally. So if you're selling a great experience, give them a great experience. And sometimes having this start go smoothly, having the project plan given to them, here's what's going on, having these expectations, you're selling the experience, you're following through on the experience. Okay. So I'll say that again. Don't sell a golden wrapped piece of crap. Lastly, project efficiency. We want to make sure having these project plans, we can check in on those progress every day. Confirming the scope and the colors kind of creates a flawless work environment for your team to execute. Again, curveballs are always going to get thrown. Again, service business, dealing with people, emotional situations. We have to leave that 1 to 5% open for error, okay? Because that's just reality. But if we can control the other 95% through having the SOP, having the structure, having these project plans in place, it's going to help your efficiency, it's going to help your budget, and guess what? That means it's going to help your finances. Thanks for plugging into this week's episode. I hope you're able to take a few nuggets away from it to implement into your business. Remember, knowledge without implementation is useless. If you're curious about what we do and how we help painting contractors all over North America, schedule a free business analysis meeting with us at www.elitebusinessadvisors.com. Our entire team of advisors have ran and managed painting companies just like myself and are here to help support you on your journey. We have packages available for contractors at every stage of business, from flying solo and just starting out, all the way to multi-million-dollar businesses. And lastly, if you loved this episode, please leave us a rating and a review. It helps others on the platform find our podcast, and it could be the best blessing that's ever happened to them thanks to you. Thanks for plugging in, and we'll see you back for next week's episode.